That's much better. So for part 4 of sports, I'm going to be tackling the sport that I follow, hockey. I love this sport, and for NHL 21, I'm going to do my absolute best to stay non-biased. Now before we get started, I want to mention that I live in New York, a city plagued with 2 pro hockey teams, and rather than say which one I like, I'm just going to say that it's the Rangers. It's the Rangers, the Islanders. At this point, when trying to talk about gameplay, I realized something. When looking at the controls for NHL, it's not the easiest thing to pick up. My years of playing NHL games made it easy to just play the game, and I'm sure that applies to other people for other sports. I can give somebody NHL and they won't know what they're doing and not have a good time because it's not their sport. Same thing with me in baseball or basketball. So I guess the lesson here is that my opinion really doesn't matter. Jumping into career mode, I made George the hockey player. When asked if I wanted to be randomly drafted or to pick a team, I decided to go random this time. But I did pick the Rangers knockoff team in the OHL. With them I won the championship and was being sent to the NHL draft. I'd say I played pretty well, first round sure, but not first overall. But the game made it seem that I was going to be the first overall pick, which I could possibly play the forced narrative card again, but the year 2020's pick went to the Rangers, so I'm not complaining. Anyway, it's time for the draft. Oh, f*** that. Not only does the game pull a fast one, but also puts me in the LA Kings, the team that broke my heart 8 years ago and denied Henrik Lundqvist winning the Stanley Cup, the greatest goalie ever and the handsomest man alive. No, f*** that, doing it over. So I'm a New York Ranger now. The goal of a hockey game is to get the puck in the net, and with my resume of experience, I was pretty good at that. I was really good at doing that actually. Gameplay wise, it's pretty good. You only play your shifts and the length of your shift is up to you. Though you don't want to stay too long in the ice because you get pretty winded. The camera angle isn't my favorite because sometimes that camera can't decide if it wants to give me a wide shot, leaving me confused on where I am and what's going on, or it'll go completely zoomed in, leaving me vulnerable to my surroundings. Also, the physicality of the sport is great. Delivering big hits is so satisfying, though sometimes I get too pushy and other players force me to drop the gloves. In non-hockey terms, dropping the gloves means becoming a dentist. Thing is, I'm not a good dentist. I don't appreciate that the game forces me to do this so that I get my ass beat and then sit out of the game for 5 minutes. I don't really like fighting. I don't develop my fighting skills at all. I'm mostly a scorer, and scoring is lovely. I find my sweet spot and I bury it. In terms of the career mode, NHL isn't trying to give a cinematic experience like Madden and NBA did. It just wants you to play the game, and that's appreciated. It does however have media engagement and teammate interactions, but it does all that through speech bubbles, which is the best way to do it. Though NHL does get in the way sometimes. For example, the coach will not shut the f*** up. He always has something to say, whether it's making a comment on what you just did or asking you to do something. Like, this all could have just been put in little briefings after my shifts. In a game as fast-paced as hockey, it's so abrupt having to skate over to him 6 times to have a conversation during a single game. Plus, in between games, my teammates want to have a chat about hanging out in the city we're in. I guess it's a cool feature forming a camaraderie with your teammates, but then they start throwing challenges at you. And then they start inviting you to events that cost money, and if I don't get to go, they get upset like, goddamn, maybe after a long day of carrying this team, my back hurts and I just want to be in bed playing Animal Crossing. Then again, I remember that NBA had me go dancing, so you know what? Yeah, let's go to the park. The reason you try to be accommodating to your buddies and your coaches is because of these likability meters. These things have been around for a while, and to this day, I wonder what their f***ing purpose is. I guess having the coaches and teammates constantly ask me to do things gets bothersome here because I'm not necessarily putting up shit numbers. My stats are insane for the modern day NHL player. Are they really complaining? One time the coach approached me with a challenge to win the game, which is stupid. I'm not trying to lose the game out here. During this particular game against the Islanders, I got injured in the early first period because of course the Islanders, the dirty playing f***s. I sat out the rest of the game badly hurt, and then post-game when the Rangers ended up losing the game, the coach gave me bullshit for it. The media did too. The f*** is that about? Did they not see me get crippled? Listen, even though I say all that, it's really not that bad. I'm just looking for complaints. The game lets you just play hockey, which is really appreciated. If you like the extravagant lifestyle of being a pro athlete, the game does let you spend your money on things like properties, cars, and other expenses, but it's not required though. With the Rangers, I won all these awards, and the team won a Stanley Cup. Yeah, this is a video game. And during the offseason, they named me team captain. And I was hoping for 7th alternate. You know, when I first got this game, the first thing I did was go to the Washington Capitals roster, took Henrik Lundqvist off, and put him on the Rangers alumni where he belongs. God, look at him. Even as a character model, he still looks like a chiseled stallion. Well, I can be a general manager, but you see, they have this player morale thing where players tell you how they feel. Like I made some trades and they start getting upset over it. Like just some BS. When I was a player and saw that my teammates got traded, no one cared to ask how I felt. Especially when they brought in Islanders players. Well, at least now they get to be on a good New York team. We got NHL 3s here, which I'll call the blacktop of this game. It's a version of that arcade 3-on-3 game. It's fun, and if I had to introduce someone to the sport, this is how I do it. There's also ones here, which is a free-for-all, but that's mostly just violence. That's all the comments I really have to make. I'll be honest, NHL 21 is a pretty good game. Any tiny complaints I made about it are just that.
tiny.
I'll even go out and say that it might possibly be my favorite NHL game of the franchise. Now that's not supposed to be an obvious statement. The belief that these yearly releases are just updates is mad. Now that's not me justifying people who buy these things yearly. I buy them every 2 so I get the sense of actual contrast between games. But them being better versions isn't necessarily a reality. People across other sports styles believe that the games have slipped. I'm one of those people. I hated NHL 19. It didn't feel good to play. It felt, and I don't want to sound stupid when I say this, slippery. The only good thing I have to say about it is that at one point on the PlayStation home screen, it looked like PK Subban was doing a synchronized dance with the guy from Apex. The second thing is that Henrik Lundqvist was still in the team at the time. You know, the man I hope to one day marry. But people tend to agree that the early 2010s were the best time for sports titles. 11 was a good year for NHL and NBA, 10 was a good year for MLB and Madden, 13 was a good year for FIFA, and 6 was a good year for Sonic. My theory as to why is because there was a perfect mix of arcaded gameplay and pure simulations.
But yeah, NHL 21 was a pretty good blend, and honestly, a lot of fun. My favorite NHL before was 15, and honestly, yeah, 21 takes the crown.
Don't get me wrong, I still love NHL 15. It was a great game, and it also had the best Rangers roster that also featured an elite sweet goalie who one day I hope to have kids with.
I miss you, Henrik.